This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East L.A. Music Stories. My guests are members of my first group, Mark and the Escorts, going way back to the early 60s. Left to right, we have Mr. Robert Warren. In the middle, Ernie Hernandez Jr. And on the right, Trini Basulto. Trini played sax, Ernie played drums, Robert played guitar. So we're going to talk about the very, very beginning of the band, right from the get-go. And but the band, Mark and the Escorts, lasted from 63 to early 66. By then, personnel changed and we became the Men from Sound with different people. But we're talking about the first part of the first band. So this is a very, it's going to be surreal for me to go back that far to when we were little kids, 13, 14, 15 years old. So we did go on to make two records, 45 RPM records on GNP Crescendo. And Get Your Baby was one A side and Dance With Me was the other. And we did tons of gigs in the East Side circuit. And let's talk about how it all started. And so we'll start with Ernie. It all started with you. Now, you and I were in the third grade band at Humphreys Avenue School. Yes. With our future bass player, Richard Rosas. He played trumpet, you played snare drum, and I played clarinet. And that's where we met. And you just so happened to live 3 or 4 doors up from me on McDonald Avenue. And we were childhood friends. We played basketball. And, you know, I remember I was at your party. There was a photo of us, 9 years old, a whole group of people like the Little Rascals, you know. Yeah. And we go that far back. So aside from being in the elementary school band together, you lived 3 or 4 doors up the street from me on McDonald Avenue. So one day I was playing tag or some game with my friends, you know, one late afternoon, and you came over and tell me what you said.
I went over and I had met Robert Warren at the Cleveland House. It was a community center. And there was a gentleman there. What was his name, Robert?
David Lazarda.
He was the director of it was like an after-school program.
Like a team post, sort of.
Yeah.
So you met at the Cleveland House.
Right.
Right.
And you invited him over to your house?
Yeah. So I asked my mom, I said, can we play at the house? And she goes, yeah, sure. And so Robert was a new friend. And I told Robert, I said, hey, you want to come over to the house and jam? And he goes, yeah. So he came over and then we started messing around a little bit. And then I said, hey, you know, my friend Mark, he just got a guitar and an amp. I said, and Robert says, go get him. So I went over and you were up in your tree house.
No, I was not. I was on the roof of my house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were up on the roof of your house. And I don't know if you were playing tag or...
Yeah, I was doing something. So I had friends over.
You had some friends over and I yelled up at you and you got upset because you were hiding and then I blew your cover.
Yeah, I think it was hide and go seek.
Yeah, and so he says, what do you want? And, you know, you told me, what do you want? And I said, hey, I have my friends over and he brought his guitar. I said, get your guitar and we could play a little bit. And you're hemming and hawing. You're like,
well, I was reluctant because I was playing and I just, you know, I didn't feel like it. And I just remember going, okay, and jumping off the roof and getting my little amp and guitar, which was a little one pickup Gibson guitar melody maker and a little Gibson amp that I had just gotten. And I'd only been playing for like a year and a half, something like that. And I went over and there was Robert and we started just playing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you remember we were just kind of jamming and were we already starting to do some surf tunes? Probably that's what we did.
We were playing little surf tunes back then, you know, that little kind of Dick Dale stuff and you know, this surfer stuff that we were playing back then.
Of course, Wipeout, Ernie's big moment.
Yeah, Ernie was on the drum doing the Wipeout thing.
Plus Robert was he played the blues.
Yeah,
right.
The blues, yeah.
And we didn't have a title, it was just let's do the blues.
That's it. Yeah.
So that's how the band started. So we started to jam a little bit. I think we did it more than once, and then we got our first house party, and that was for your cousin. Was it Mary Frances?
Mary Frances, yes.
And we have photographs of that.
Right.
Just you, me, and Ernie. I mean, yeah, and of the three of us, and Robert and I are sitting on folding chairs.
Yeah.
And you're on the drums. And I saw the picture the other day. And what was funny about it was we were so inexperienced. We had our amps in front of us instead of behind us.
Yes.
That's how cool we were.
Well, you made you say amps, you amp.
Oh, that's right. Were you plugged into my amp?
I plugged into your amp at that time. That's right.
Apps.
That's
So
right.
what it was amp.
Yeah. Yeah. Who had amps?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was our first gig. And then our second gig was at Laguna Park.
Right.
And we have pictures of that. And I think once again, the amps are in front of us. I don't know. But we look about 8 years old, at least I do. Me and Ernie, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, Robert was a little bit taller than us at the time.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Like a whole head taller.
A little bit.
So we played that, and now that park is called Salazar Park. And then our third gig was the CYO Hall on Brooklyn, which is now Cesar Chavez,
Yes.
which is now the self-help graphics building. And that was the first time we were actually on a flyer, you know. And the flyer said, yeah, Big Teen Dance, November 15th, 1963, CYO Hall, music by the Twisting Escorts. And check this out, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. Talk about a 4-hour gig.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a 4-hour gig our first gig.
Oh my goodness.
How did we have enough songs? Probably repeated some stuff. And think about it, 13, 14-year-old guys playing till midnight.
Oh, wow.
What about the curfew?
Yeah, and they put twisting because the twist was happening then.
Right.
And also, notice that was a week before the Kennedy assassination.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was our first real gig where we were on a flyer, you know. So what, do you guys have any memories of that gig or the Laguna Park gig? Robert, what do you have to say about those early?
In Laguna Park, and then we got there, and then we were trying to look as best we could, you know, with our little shirts and our slacks and stuff. And again, we still had the one amp.
One amp again.
We still had the one amp. We still got the one amp concert going on.
Yeah.
So I said, well, okay, so we played that, and it was fun. I mean, we got there, and the crowd was nice, and all the teenage girls were there, and the guys were looking at us, and we sounded pretty good, you know, to be so young. And it went well.
Yeah, the little girls, the little 8-year-olds watching us.
Yeah. So
well, they came up on the stage and they started dancing on the stage.
Right. Yeah.
I have a list here, believe it or not. And this is one of our first lists. It was all surf tunes, right? I mean, we were playing, and we were playing some Freddie King stuff. San Jose.
Yeah. Hideaway.
What's that?
Did Hideaway also by Freddie.
Did we? Sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did a blues, but mostly it was surf stuff. Right. So I have a little list here of the really, really early gigs. I just mentioned the first 3. Here's one, Young's Restaurant. I don't remember playing at Young's.
Yes,
Do you remember?
Yeah. I remember the name. Yeah.
That now is called Tommy's. It's right next to the Hat on Riggin by East L.A. College. That's where Young's was. I'm just wondering if that was, remember we did a thing for the Optimist Club or something like that. They gave us a little plaque.
Yes, the
It might have been that one.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, then we have an American Legion gig. Oh, and now we got to say this. My dad took us to record an acetate. Okay, that was a big deal. You know, my dad used to record at this studio in Pasadena called Jimmy Jones Studio.
Jimmy Jones Studio.
And so he, you know, he thought we were cute. You know, hey, I'll take you in and you can guys just record a little demo, you know. And so we went in and we recorded 2 songs, just the 3 of us. I did lead guitar on Windy and Warm
Yeah.
by the Ventures. And then the B-side was The blues.
That's it on the back.
On the backside, you were on the flip side.
Yeah, the flip side.
And so we walked out of there with a little record, a little acetate,
Yes,
you know, which we still have. I think I still have it.
I still
But
have.
yeah, that was very exciting. You have one too, right? And so we got some recording experience that young, which was pretty cool. And then maybe a few months later, we were a little more professional. He took us in again, and we did another acetate. This time, I played lead on San Jose, Freddie King, and you played the B side or the flip side, the blues. Did we
That's
call it
it.
blues too, or was it just?
It's the blues again. It's
Yeah.
the same
I
pattern.
think one of them was blues, and the other one was the blues.
First one was
Yeah.
blues. It was just
It was
blues.
blues.
We added the to it.
We put a handle on it called the blues.
Yeah.
Right, that made it different entirely.
Yeah.
So we had another acetate, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And the time, the way that your dad would work it is that he was going down to the studio because he had a session he was doing. And then we'd be out on the street there waiting to go in to set up to play. And there was always some kind of a mischief that we were up to. I remember there was these bushes next to the cars that were parked on the street there, and me and Robert would always get into it for one way or another. And then he got a hold of me and he says, "Into the bushes you must go."
I remember,
And I got thrown into the bushes.
in the bushes you must go.
So in the bushes he went.
Yeah, he did. Oh, that's too funny. But we were like hyperactive little kids, especially you, Ernie.
Yeah, I was a little what do they call that?
Travieso? Not quite a travieso, but
No, not
a handful.
a terrible guy, just
A handful
Yeah,
Hands.
at times.
at times. Yeah. So
I was just annoying.
just slightly annoying. So then, getting back to my dad, he thought we were kind of cute, and so he invited us to play at his nightclub for a Sunday afternoon tardeada. On Sundays, he would play from 4 to 7 or something like that, 4 to 8 or something. And so since it was a tardeada, the early part was called a floor show. He'd have other entertainment sometimes. And so we got to play there in the nightclub, and we were just these little kids. And I remember doing Wipeout there, and we have pictures of that. So what are your memories, Robert, of playing at my dad's club?
Mark, what I recall about that was peeking through the door. Your dad is in a room. We're already dressed, ready to go on, but we couldn't go on stage yet because of they were serving alcohol at that time, so we couldn't go out there. But we were peeking through the door, saying, "Oh man, look at all the people out there." Blah blah blah. Then they came back and brought us Shirley Temples. I had no idea what a Shirley Temple was, other than somebody you see on TV. I said, so we're drinking Shirley Temples out there, this way to go on. But finally, your dad gave us this big introduction, and we came out, and man, the rest was like we were on the Ed Sullivan show. It was amazing for me.
We must have been nervous,
Oh yes, yes. Oh yeah. Now keep in mind, we were dressed in our ties on, and we had our A1 racer slacks on, and
racers. They had the little
Racers.
split pockets.
yes, sir. And our Beetle boots. Remember the first?
Oh yeah.
The Beetle boots. We had those on, so we were ready for it, and we were out there, and that was it. And we just did the best we could. It was great.
One amp again?
Huh?
1 amp again?
Oh yeah, still 1 amp. But
Okay.
keep in mind that while we played, there was no alcohol being served.
Right.
So they had to give us some attention. They had to hear us,
Yeah, they had to hit.
Yeah.
And the Shirley Temples were 7-Up with grenadine.
Yeah, I know that now. Yeah.
With a maraschino cherry.
That's it. We had about maybe 1, maybe 2 of those each,
And the people responded because, we were a novelty,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a great experience for me. I enjoyed it. Never forget it.
Yeah. So the next thing that happened is we figured we need a bass player. And in those days, not too many, if any, 14-year-old kids had a bass. There weren't many basses around. A lot of bands had guitars and drums and no bass. So that wasn't unusual to have a hard time finding a bass player. But I invited my friend from my elementary school that I had met, Richard Rosas, who had been in the orchestra with us playing trumpet. And I told him, hey, if you get a bass and an amp, you can join the band. You know, he didn't know how to play the bass. And he did, and he became our fourth member. But I must say this other little story here that I found out a few years ago. I don't know if you know this, Robert, or if you remember it, but before I offered Richard the bass gig, I had offered it to another friend of mine first.
Mhm.
You know that, Robert? Probably didn't know that. Huh?
No,
Yeah. So I had a friend that lived behind the house, behind me and Ernie. He was on the back of his house was, facing our backyard.
Mhm.
Joseph Seipert. And I told Joseph first, hey, if you get a bass, you can get in the band. But so I loaned him a guitar and I tried to give him lessons, and he just couldn't do it. He just didn't have the natural musical ability or whatever it was. And he just said, man, he got frustrated. He said, I just can't do it. Okay. So then I called Richard. I didn't find that out till I saw Joseph about 10 years ago. I hadn't seen him since the probably late 60s or mid 60s. And I went to visit him in East L.A. He went on to become a very successful furniture builder, woodworker.
Okay.
He'd build furniture for the Lakers and major people, and he had a whole shop with a bunch of employees and incredible woodworker. Anyway, I went to visit him. I hadn't seen him in 40 years or more. And he reminded me of that. He goes, remember you offered me to play bass? And I go, oh my God. And it made me think of destiny and fate, right? If he had been able to play bass, Richard wouldn't have been in the band.
Right.
Richard may have never played the bass.
Yes. That's
And
right.
therefore he would have never gone on to play with Neil Young and Joe Walsh. So I'm just saying that's the way the universe works. It was that little quirk, right? That little twist.
You just never know.
Yeah. So now we had Richard, and we started doing gigs, and he caught on pretty quick. And one of my memories of playing with him was my dad took us to play with him in Bakersfield. And we played at this big, giant place where they have, like the Great Western Exhibit Center in East L.A. or bigger, where they have county fairs.
Right.
And there we were, man, the four-piece band, little kids, 14 years old, hundreds of people, if not, a couple thousand, a lot of people. And by then the Beatles had come out. We were actually a band for at least 6 months before the Beatles came out. We got to remember that. And so this is a silly, embarrassing part. We had Beetle wigs, and I don't know.
Yes, we did.
I don't remember if I bought 4 of them or we each bought one. Do you remember?
Mark, what happened? I never forget it. There was a box sitting on stage, a box, and everybody said, "What's in the box?" So you open the box, and there were wigs packed in these plastic bags. And you said, "Oh man!" Everybody took the wig out and they shook it. So, "Oh yeah, that looks good. I'll take that one." So you were the distributor of the wigs.
Okay, I'm the wig distributor.
Yeah, you're the wig man.
Okay.
However,
I guess I wigged out.
However, there you go. You know I'm gonna go with this one. Okay.
Yeah, you got to say the rest of the stuff.
Okay, so everybody got the wigs and put them on. So I got this wig. Now keep in mind, I'm the little skinny kid with the wig on. I look like a roach.
Yeah, I remember you said that. I look like a roach.
I look like a roach.
That was
Everybody
hilarious.
else got a nice wig that was kind of fitted and combed, and mine just did whatever it wanted to do. I said, hell, they're gonna wear this, I'm wearing mine, and that's it. We started playing A Hard Day's Night, and that was it.
Yeah, and I think, as I recall, we didn't wear them for the whole show. We put them
Oh,
on.
they were too hot.
Yeah.
We put them on for the Beatles song or whatever.
Right.
And the little girls were screaming, and they were all excited.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, that really sold our show.
So you were the wig man.
Wig man. Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'll own that.
Mm.
So we did quite a few gigs as a 4-piece, and then it was time to get a singer. I wasn't singing yet. I didn't even think of singing. Ernie, you weren't singing either. None of us were
No,
singing.
I wasn't singing yet.
And so I invited my close friend of the time, Ricky Almaraz, to join. And he was not the greatest singer, but he had a mature voice for a 14-year-old. That was one of the things that made it work. He didn't sound like a little squeaky 13, 14-year-old. He sounded pretty mature.
Yeah, he did. He looked good on stage.
He looked good on stage.
What he had going for him, besides good-looking guy, is he was very charismatic and very witty and very funny.
Had that flip, the little hair thing working also, the little flip he had, you know?
Oh yeah, he had it was
Yeah, he had to do.
slightly curled, really nice hair, and the girls liked him, and so he worked out, for a while.
Yeah.
And we were so lucky in so many ways. One of the ways was that Ernie, your dad, used to take us to gigs because we couldn't drive yet, and he worked for a construction company, and he had that big truck, the R.E. Job.
R.E.
Yeah.
Job, that was our limo, man.
That's right. So he would take all our equipment and maybe Ernie, and then either Richard's parents or my mom or one of the parents would take the rest of us to the gig. We couldn't drive yet. And so we started doing gigs with Ricky. And, that's when we started taking off a little bit. But with Ricky, we did songs like he sang Little Latin Loopy Loo by the Righteous Brothers. He sang a song called The Roach. Remember that? Speaking of Roach.
Yeah.
He sang the doo-wop songs. And we were still doing our instrumentals. We were doing some cool instrumentals like Last Night. We were starting to do those cool R&B kind of things. Green Onions. So we did some gigs with Ricky. And then Trini came into the band. And Robert, you brought him in. Talk about how that happened.
Yes, I did. At that time, it's a guy that I heard played his horn up the street from where I lived, there in East L.A. I would pass by his house. He'd be in the back there blowing his horn. I said, So I knocked on the door, introduced myself, and he came to the door. Yeah, what do you want? And I said, hey, man, you playing your horn up. You want to be in a band? He said, no, I don't want to be in a band. I don't want to do this. I'm not that good. Come on down, check us out. So I think after he said, okay, I talked with you and I talked with Ernie. He said, hey, look, I got this guy that may want to come by with a horn and see what you guys think.
Now, let me say this before I get off of Ricky Almaraz, which we're not going to necessarily get off of him. I wanted to mention that he happened to be the younger brother of Carlos Almaraz, who
Right, the artist.
Probably the most famous Chicano muralist and artist going. A tremendously worldwide successful career. He passed away in 1989, but he was Carlos's younger brother. So I wanted to mention that. Now, did Trini go to Belvedere with you?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Did you know him at Belvedere? Or just know
I met him at school.
Okay.
I met him in school, and then I would hear him play the horn, up the street from my house, and then we started talking, and I convinced him to come down to band practice, and that was it. He bought a horn, he bought a buffet. At that time, the buffet was one of the top brands in tenor saxophones, and he had that. I think he still has.
Wasn't it? Trini can tell us, but I think it was an alto, wasn't it? I think he got a tenor.
You got a tenor.
Huh?
Yeah, tenor, I believe it was.
We'll ask him when he comes. Well,
okay.
Trini, come on in.
Trini.
Come on, Trini.
So Trini, wasn't it an alto sax?
I was playing alto when he was asking me to come and check you guys out. Yeah, but
and then a little bit later, you got a tenor, maybe.
Yeah, because you guys were like, "Nah, you gotta play a tenor. That ain't the right horn. You need a tenor. You need a tenor."
Right.
That's what you about to play.
So the deal was, well, I certainly didn't feel qualified to play with you guys, and then well, come listen to us. And I went to Clinton House, and then I said, "Oh heck no, you guys are soloing and playing so tight." I go, and I'm telling Robert, I can't play at your level. Oh no, we'll teach you. Mark plays sax. He'll show you the parts. I never seen Mark play sax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my own alto for a while there. Yeah.
But
from my point of view, you were like really good. You had chops. You were just playing a little note here and
there.
I
heard him, I said, I think he might have some potential,
Yeah.
And that was it.
Well, you guys taught me how to solo and how to play, and like I was really intimidated. The deal was once I learned the parts, then I could start gigging with you.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
a month
Well,
or so.
Now I forgot to talk about something. So Trini, I got to talk to Ernie and Richard about this before we go on, because this is too important to leave out. 'Cause it was too fun. My dad did one more thing for us. And when it was, I think Ricky was in the band. Probably we were what would that be? A 5-piece. But when he took us on that little tour, and he took us up north, we went to San Jose, and I think it was 3 towns. But what was funny about it was, here were these 3 little kids, 14 years old or so, in a station wagon with a bunch of grizzled old jazz musicians, And here were these little kids, and my dad's great piano player, Pete Alcaraz, who was a genius, who played the solo on his classic Los Chucos Suaves. He was a hardcore alcoholic, and he'd drink every night. And by the end of the night, he'd be drunk, but he'd still be able to play well. And my dad used to tell him, "Pete, you're drunk again." He'd go, "True."
True.
But anyway, so he'd be in the car with us, and he'd be going, "Frog farts, tiger tits," and he'd just make up these little poetic couplets.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're touring with these guys, and they probably were like, "What are these kids doing with us?" So we did the 2 or 3 gigs, 2 or 3 cities. And I didn't remember this, but Ernie told me in recent years that my dad flew us home.
Yes, he did.
I didn't remember that.
Let me interrupt you 1 second. The hotel we stayed on was on Market Street.
Yeah.
In San Francisco. Never forget that, because they had a window, and we could look outside, and Richard was hollering at people from the window. Because we were sitting there on Market Street. I guess your dad got tired of it and said, "I'm getting rid of these guys."
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I think that's what happened. I think it was my dad or the band, like, "Hey, man, get rid of these kids.
I think
we
we
can't."
back on PSA Airline, I believe it was.
Yes, PSA.
So they probably thought, we can't drink and womanize and do all the normal things with these kids around and cuss, and
we're cutting into the style,
yeah, we're cramping their style. So
Cramping the style. We gotta go.
But like Ernie said, it was his first plane ride, right?
Mine also.
Yeah.
Yeah. PSA Airlines.
There you go. Get out of town.
Now.
So back to so we're a 5-piece. Mark, Ernie, Robert, Richard, Trini, and Ricky, 6-piece.
Right.
I have a song list here that says on it all our names, so it shows we were really all together. And here's some of the songs: Farmer John by the Premiers, Roll Over Beethoven, Chuck Berry, Night Train, Twist and Shout, Sloss and Shuffle by the Romancers, Cradle Rock by the Heartbreakers, I Saw Her Standing There, Beatles, Louie Louie, Money, Barrett Strong, Motown, and For Your Love, Oh, I Would Do Anything, Doo-Wop. So that was a list from that era right there.
Mark, was that set 1 or set 2?
That was probably the only set we had. I don't know, but that's the list.
Okay.
So now we got to talk about, now we're talking about this 6-piece era. So we got a gig in Arizona that Richard Rosas got us. It was, I think, one of his uncles or somebody got us a gig in Chandler, Arizona, which is now a suburb of Phoenix. But I think then it was like a separate city. You know what I mean? You'd have to drive for a while through the desert to get to it. So it was a big deal. So again, we couldn't drive ourselves. So my dad took us in his station wagon. We did the gig. It was a big deal because to these kids in Chandler, Arizona, a little town in the sticks in Arizona, oh, here's these kids from California, a rock band from California. Woo! And they were all like, we were celebrities. I think we might have even signed some autographs. But we played the gig, and we stayed at Richard's uncle's house, or whoever his relative was, all of us, right? And several incidents happened there. One was Ricky who was, 14 or whatever, but he was already doing stuff. He was already drinking. He was already had girlfriends, probably having sex. I don't know, but he was far advanced of us. He wanted to grow up really quickly. And he actually raided Richard's uncle's bar and drank some of his booze. And I think he got caught, right? Yeah, but he got caught. Somehow they found out about it. So that's one thing that happened. Another story that just, it's a funny memory. It's funny how certain memories stick with you in your life. Usually it's embarrassing moments, traumatic moments, elation moments, things, little things you remember. Well, I remember this one because it was so funny. So I remember that we woke up the next morning and Richard's aunt made us all breakfast, and there was a big platter of bacon on the table. And I love bacon. So I started, I eat a few, get some more. And Robert goes, "Hey, what are you doing shoveling bacon?" Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoveling bacon.
Shoveling.
So I was busted on that one.
Yeah.
So, and I believe, Trini couldn't correct me if I'm wrong, but it was either there or when we got to Tucson where we were swimming and you got cut in the swimming pool on glass or something.
At his uncle's house,
Yeah.
the filter.
Oh, you got cut on the filter?
Yeah.
And I remember you were bleeding profusely.
Big old hole in the heel.
Okay.
Had to take me to a doctor.
So that was the first mishap that happened to you. So now we move on to Tucson because that's where I have a ton of relatives, my dad's relatives, my mom's relatives. They were both born in Tucson. So we went to Tucson just to visit my relatives. We go to my Uncle Dave's house, who is my mom's brother. And we got to play on his porch. And all, the nephews and nieces and a lot of people came around. And again, it was a big deal. We did our show on the front porch. And then they fed us. And my memory is, remember, they were hardcore country people. And they actually, remember, they killed a goat. They hung it upside down, slit the throat, drained it, sliced it up, made chops and stuff. And that was the barbecue or whatever it was. Do you guys remember that?
Vaguely. Yeah. Vaguely.
Vaguely?
Yeah.
How about you, Ernie?
I don't remember that. No.
Once again, like talk about traumatic memories. That's why I remember it. I saw the slitting of the throat and the chopping up. It's like, oh, what the hell? This doesn't happen in East L.A.
Yeah. No, it wasn't going to the corner market and getting a piece of.
No, that's what we were used to.
Go to the backyard and get one.
Yeah, exactly. So then the next day, my cousins, again, they were very country type people. They wanted to go out hunting in the desert. And we go out to the desert and they wanted to shoot rabbits. And I remember I didn't want to shoot a rabbit. And I think they said, "Oh, take a shot." And I purposely missed the rabbit. I don't want to kill a rabbit at that point in my life. And I still don't actually. But remember, Trini, you had a cactus stick to your arm.
Because you pushed me.
I didn't. Did I push you? Did I say in the cactus you must go?
In the cactus, you went.
No, I don't think I said
that. I was shooting and then you were just counting around and pushed me. You didn't realize it was
really? It wasn't a violent push.
It was those cactus that was gonna jump off and attack you.
Yeah.
For those type.
Let's clarify this. I didn't like violently push you. I probably just shoved you a little bit.
Yeah, it was just a horse
the cactus jumped on you.
And I didn't mean to throw him into a cactus, if that happened.
There.
But that one piece just stuck on him. Somebody tried to pry it off your arm, and the more they tried to pry it, it would go deeper.
Right.
So was that very painful? He said. Did you cry?
Well,
No, I don't think you cried.
No, Trini didn't.
But yeah, you had two, physical mishaps.
you just took me out there to mess me up, man. Just take Trini and jack him up out there.
Yeah. First his heel, then that arm, cactus got stuck on his arm. And it was just like those thorns on that cactus were just eating into his arm, and you couldn't grab it with anything because it was just it was a piece of cactus.
Yeah.
It was yeah, it was like, how are we gonna get it off of Trini? I don't even know how
How did
do
we get it off? You still have it?
I think it finally pried off, but it took a lot
I
of doing.
think they finally found a stick or something.
They
No,
kinda
but like I said, when they were doing it at first, it would go deeper the more they pried. But I guess somebody did it strongly enough so it popped off. But that was not too
It was
fun.
like a round thing with spikes all the way around.
Yeah.
And it was thinking got the round part out,
Yeah,
and they individually pulled
right,
all
Wow.
the spikes out. They were like
Yeah.
long needles.
right.
I really enjoyed the trip. I don't know why.
Yeah, right.
I can't believe I couldn't walk for a month.
Yeah, that's right. You almost had PTSD from that trip.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to remember. So pretty soon, Billy Cardenas, the manager, came into our lives. And I don't remember if it was when Ricky was still in the band or not. It might have been right after Ricky. No, wait a minute. No, it wasn't. You know why? Because Ricky played with us at Rainbow Gardens.
Oh, okay.
And Billy's got us those gigs. Did you play Rainbow Gardens with us, Trini?
I loved Rainbow Garden a couple of times.
I love that spot.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, now that was a big deal. So Billy Cardenas was a big time East LA manager who managed most of the best bands in East LA at the time. The Premiers, the Blendells, Cannibal and the Headhunters, Ronnie and the Casuals, the Sisters, on and on and on. So he started managing us.
So at the time, were you the one that was getting the gigs?
Well, yes. Well, here, let's put it this way. It's hard to say what came first, the chicken or the egg, Billy or the egg, so to speak. Uh, because we were getting our own gigs, for a while. Then Billy came in. I remember he got us a gig at St. Alphonsus Auditorium, which was big. Got us the gigs at Rainbow Gardens, Bel Air Rollerdrome. We'll talk about those.
Mhm.
But I was always kind of a saver. And even in those days, I would always save the flyers, save the bank cards. That's why I have them all up on my website now, because I saved everything I could. And when we played at Rainbow Gardens, they didn't have any serious printed up flyers. They would just handwrite who was going to be there that day and put it on the box office. So people go, oh, look who's playing here. And I took them off of the box office and took them home. So all 4 times we played there, I took the little handwritten flyers off just so it's for a memento. And the first time we played on the bill was the Romancers, very popular band Billy managed with Maxi Baez as leader. The Blendells, who had the big hit La 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 in 1965. Mark and the Escorts. Added attraction, Dan and the Clean Cut Clan. Do you remember them? I remember seeing their name, but I don't remember
Yeah,
seeing
I
them.
remember the name.
And of course, Billy put on, and maybe Kosher Pickle Harry. Remember that whole thing, you guys?
Mhm.
Okay, Billy had all these gimmicks, he's the one that comes up with stuff like on the Premier's record. He's the one that told them to say whoa, 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 to sing that on there, and to go chaka 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 choo, bobble 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 boo. He gave them that. So he's the one that came up with the idea for the Blendells. I'm gonna do a little song for you now. I'm gonna make you clap your hands, kick your feet, and as a matter of fact, it'll tear you up. For the intro, was helped make that a hit record. So he was really good with ideas. So anyway, he created this Kosher Pickle Harry, maybe it's some guy from a deli in his neighborhood. And he would go to the gigs and he'd say, all right, has anybody seen Kosher Pickle Harry? No. Well, if you do, tell him Herbert's looking for him. And he would just say that for no particular reason, and it would cause a stir. He even did it on records. He did it on a Cannibal Head. It might have been a Land of a Thousand Dances, where he introduces them and he says that. Anybody seen Kosher Pickle Harry? No, it's on a record. So he put it on this flyer. The next one we did, these were Sunday afternoon tardeadas also, 4 to 8 o'clock, something like that on Sundays. And this one is Ronnie and the Casuals, great band that he managed. The Rhythm Playboys, another band he managed, and Mark and the Escorts. The next one, Ronnie and the Casuals again, the Jaguars with the Salas brothers, Salas Brothers later became Tierra, and the Jaguars, and they had that great record, Where Lovers Go, and Mark and the Escorts. And the fourth one was Mark and the Escorts, the Desires, and the Romancers. Now, the Desires were not a Billy Cardenas managed group, but they made a record, and they were the first group to record Dance With Me. In fact, their band, a couple of guys from their band wrote it. Billy had the Blendells record it, and then after that, he had us record it. That was our second single. But the Desires wrote it and did it first. So one of the guys from the Desires lives here in Palm Springs, Albert Martinez. So he's still around, and I still know him.
So when we did Dance With Me, Ricky was out of the band already, right?
Yes. So at Rainbow Gardens, my memory is that it was never that packed. You guys probably remember that.
Right.
It was a huge place.
Huge place, big nightclub. And on Fridays and Saturdays, it was a happening place. I mean, the Righteous Brothers would play there, and the Premiers, and all kinds of mainstream artists and East LA groups. The Mixtures used to play there. They made a record called Stomping at the Rainbow about that. And but they did an experiment. Let's do Sunday afternoons, but it didn't quite catch on. But that was kind of irrelevant to us because it was cool to play there. And all those great bands were playing there. So we got to play alongside them. And they were a little bit older than us. Most of the bands were a little older than us all the way through. We were 14, 15. They were 17, 18, which was a big difference then, You're a 9th, 10th grader and they're a senior. It's a big, they're men, So we learned from a lot of these groups. We were like learning by playing with all these groups. So Ricky did do some Billy Cardenas jobs, but Ricky wound up out of the group, and it was mainly because he was doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing in terms of alcohol and maybe taking some pills, and he became kind of irresponsible, and he wouldn't show up for rehearsal or that kind of thing. It was like, and then he wound up getting busted. He went to juvenile hall right around that time, and sadly, he wound up passing away at age 21 of an overdose. So it was a tragic story. This kid was very intelligent, very funny, very charismatic, had a lot going for him, but he just got into the substances too young, and he got addicted. So when Ricky left, then we got a baritone sax player because Billy Cardenas was addicted to baritone sax. It was get a Barry, get a Barry. The Riding the Casuals had a baritone sax. Several of his bands had a baritone sax, and he wanted us to get one. So luckily we knew one, Richard Magana, and he was also from your area. Did he go to Belvedere too and Roosevelt, or what's the deal?
Richard went to Belvedere as well.
Okay. And did you bring him in too, or?
I did, yes.
And he came in, and he's a little skitty guy with a gigantic baritone sax. And he was cool. And so Trini and Richard Magana had a great little thing going there. And we had a little sax section, man. It was really cool. And we started doing a lot of gigs. By the way, Richard is still alive, but and he was invited to do this, but he declined because of health issues. He's having some health issues that are pretty serious, and so he couldn't make it. But he did tell me recently on the phone that he and you, Trini, played on a record by the Atlantics. Do you remember that? You probably don't even remember, right?
No.
Darn. Too bad Richard's not here. He told me about it. Well, Billy was doing a record with the Atlantics, one of his bands, and he got you and Richard to go play on it. It was called the Sloop Dance or something like that. Sloop Dance. And he said you guys went over to their session and put on the parts and did your job, and it was really cool. But again, our memories are different and selective, and he remembered it clearly and you completely forgot it. But Ernie and I always talk about this. Ernie will say, hey, remember we went to this gig and the car broke down? And no, and I go, remember this great gig and this happened? No, I don't remember it at all. Like there are some gigs I have no memories of and others I have great memories of. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing that he farmed you out to another band. And unfortunately, you don't have any stories about it.
Richard had really great timing. If you listen to the records that we recorded, man, he is so sharp. It's really, playing baritone and having that great timing. There were just two of us, but because of, his great timing, we sounded good.
And he also could sing, so he
Yes.
started singing some lead vocals, and he was.
Robert was singing too a couple. When I first got
James
in.
Brown stuff, not much.
Well, we'll get into that too.
Uh-oh.
Now that you brought it up.
Uh-oh.
Now, some of this goes before Trini too. What's funny is that, like I said, Ricky was a singer at first. Once he left, Robert started singing a little bit. Ernie, I think you started singing a little bit already. Richard Magana sang a little bit. Leads. I remember he used to sing Forever, Darling, Forever, Forever. But Robert, you were the James Brown guy.
Mm-mm.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
So I remember
Yeah.
you singing Out of Sight.
Out of sight, try to do a little James Brown dance
Yeah.
every now
And you do the James Brown dance.
And the squeal.
And
You
that,
had
high,
a squeal.
that high voice, that
Oh,
was high, did that.
yeah.
It wasn't quite a scream, it was more a squeal.
It was a
It's more
squeal.
of a squeal, you know,
Yeah.
more of a sore throat is what it was.
He was singing when that big fight broke out we played up at the CYO.
Oh, yeah? Oh, my God. Yeah. Oftentimes when we played at the Catholic Youth Organization, CYO,
Mhm.
there'd be chingazos out there, fights break out. And so you're remembering one when he was singing that.
That was when they
I don't know if it was
for a
I don't,
fight.
I don't know if it was the same time, but I remember one time where a fight broke out, and pretty soon you saw chairs flying
Yes.
and more people getting into the fight. And word was, I don't know if it's true, I heard, oh man, somebody pushed a guy out the window and he landed on a car. No, I don't know if that happened.
CYO Hall was up in the second floor.
Yeah, it was second floor.
Yeah, CYO.
There was a guy trying to push a guy out the window, but
Oh, okay.
the guy opened his arms and his legs, but the guy had him by the back of the shirt and the belt at the window, right to the left of me, and I'm going, dang.
That's Batman. That's Batman.
Hardcore stuff, man. We would get behind our amps,
Yeah.
playing from behind the amps,
And we turned everything around because it was packed and it got really rowdy.
Packed. Yeah.
It was
And
one
also-
guard.
For some reason, more fights broke out there than anywhere.
At that time, it was amps now.
We have more than one amp,
It was amps. It's amps now.
but no PA. We just had another amp with a mic
with
in it.
amps with no PA.
Very few bands then had PA systems. It would be plug a mic into an amp. That was it. But anyway, so then we added a guy on Farfisa organ, which was Joe Cabral. So now I guess that makes it 7-piece. And we started doing a lot of gigs. And that was the recording band. That 7-piece band are the ones that recorded Get Your Baby and the second single, Dance With Me. And they sound pretty damn good. Get Your Baby has been on many compilation albums over the years. East Side Sound compilations, garage rock compilations. And in 2017, 52 years after we did it, it wound up in a major motion picture, Logan Lucky, where the whole song is played in it. And our second single sounded pretty damn professional. By then we knew how to record, and that's really good. And Richard Magana and I sang harmony on the backgrounds on Dance With Me. And the lead singer is somebody who is still unknown.
I don't know who it is.
What happened was we didn't have a real lead singer at that time. Not to disparage any of you guys, we didn't have a frontman lead singer, or disparaging me. We didn't have like a solid frontman lead singer. So Billy brought in this guy, and he rehearsed with us, and then he came in and recorded it, did a nice job, sounded nice. And all these years, I thought he was Billy's nephew. And about 10 years ago, I asked Billy, who was that dude? And he goes, wasn't it your nephew? No. Well, who was he? I have no idea. He had no idea who it was. And so to this day, he's a mystery man. He just came in, did our lead vocal, and disappeared. And now he's a myth. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, so it was that 7-piece band, man, and we were gigging a lot, so we were tight, and those records are pretty good. And the B-sides are really good. The B-side of Get Your Baby was Tough Stuff. Billy came up with the title. Again, he was a very good gimmicky idea guy. And that was the one that and a bunch of solos, and it sounds pretty damn good.
Had a horn also. Mark had a horn.
It started out with a little
Yeah,
like a bicycle horn,
right.
another kind of gimmick.
Mhm.
And I did some pretty decent lead guitar solos on my Fender Esquire. By then I had a Fender Esquire,
That's right.
and it sounded damn good. I wish I still had it. And Trini did a couple of killer solos, and that was a nice sounding record. Now the B-side of the second single, Dance With Me, was a song Billy entitled Silly Putty, another cool name for an instrumental. And we created that song together, and it's pretty cool, and it's pretty jazzy. It's got a doom doom doom. It's got a walking bass line, and again, good solos, and it sounds really good. And it had a really creative ending because we came up with do 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 boo. It was just the keyboard, you know. So we ended in a really different way. So those B-sides aren't too bad, you know. Oh, we rehearsed them. That's another important thing. We were lucky for many reasons. One, since Ernie's dad used to take us to the early gigs, he would always take his camera and take pictures of us. So
Yes.
we are probably the most documented band out of East LA because we have pictures of almost all our gigs. So that was a lucky universe thing too. And the other lucky thing was when Richard got in the band, Richard Rosas, his parents had a cool basement.
Yes.
It was like a night.
Yeah.
It was like a
Yeah.
it was like a nightclub. You know, it had the Naugahyde seats going along the walls and cinder block and nice mood lighting, red lights, and a bar. It was a freaking nightclub, and we could rehearse there, and we could play loud because it was pretty well, you know, underground and cinder block. And so that's where we used to rehearse with Ricky in the early days, and that's where we rehearsed Silly Putty and Tough Stuff and all the stuff we were doing then. That was our main rehearsal place. We were so lucky to have that. So what do you guys remember about the basement?
Oh man, just that sliding door. We walked in there and pulled the sliding glass doors and just make all the noise you want to. It was fun.
And I think once in a while we'd have dances, or I don't know if you guys were there, but a couple of girls would come over and there'd be dances there.
I missed out on that one, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was probably Richard and I.
Oh,
But
Mhm.
but yeah, we were lucky to have that place.
I remember Richard coming home with his jazz bass and opening it up back there when he first got that jazz bass.
Oh yeah.
Down there, and then, whoa.
Oh yeah. At first he had a St. George bass.
Right.
His parents bought him a St. George bass and amp. And then after a year or so, he got a jazz bass and a Fender bass amp. And by then I had a Fender Bandmaster and a Strat and a Stratocaster.
Yeah.
And by then you had your own amp. You had a
I did have a Magnavox.
Magnavox. And were you still playing your harmony guitar at that point?
Harmony guitar with a white cord.
Yeah. Yeah. And you started out with a K guitar.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You still have that Stratocaster?
No, that would be worth about 50 grand right now.
Mhm.
In the late 60s, I traded it for a Les Paul Custom, and man, I wish I didn't. I have a Stratocaster now, but it's a 1999. It's good, but it ain't worth 50 grand. So now here's a gig. So I have some flyers here. Now, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure Trini, you were in the band at this time. Do you remember Billy got us a gig at the Bel Air Roller Drum in Pico Rivera? And we were on the bill with, I have it here, Robert and Johnny. They're the ones that had You're Mine and We Belong Together. Big doo-wop hit. Little Ray singing his recordings, Loretta and Shake, Shout, and Soul. Little Ray was the big megastar of East L.A., singer, performer, R&B guy. The Blendells, they had a hit at the time, La 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 La, national hit, and Mark and the Escorts. So we were on that gig Friday, August 7th, 1964. And my memory of that was playing with the Blendells and seeing them play again. And we were big fans of them. They were a very tight group. They were really, Rudy Valona was a really good guitar player. They had a really good sax player. Sal Murillo was their lead singer, had a nice voice. And once again, 2 years older than us or so, more experienced. And so we really dug them. But Ernie, we made that mistake, right? We
Yes.
played their hit on this show.
They played their
Yeah,
hit.
right.
Yes.
And what did Billy say to you?
Oh, we got balled out. You don't play the Stars song on the same show right before they come on.
What did we know?
We got a spanking that night.
Yeah. Trini, do you have any memories of that gig in particular? It was a big roller rink. So it was a big,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
big room. And yeah. And that
The
was
stage was way in the back.
yeah.
The stage was way in the back of the board.
Yes. Yes, it was.
I remember that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I remember was I had never seen Lil Ray perform.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that was the first night that I saw him perform, and I couldn't believe how good he was.
Oh, yeah, Rich
He was as good as any Motown singer,
Absolutely.
and his dancing and his charisma on stage was just, I couldn't believe it. It blew me away.
Didn't Ray sign with Motown for a short period?
No, but he was with for a while he was with one of Bob Keene's labels. I think it was Delphi or Donna, one of those.
Okay.
But then he had a deal with I believe it was Epic, or it was a major label for a while. Yeah. But you know, he had the talent to be a huge star, you know.
Yeah.
But as I've always said, it's harder for a Chicano to go national than a white or black, you know. We're like neither fish nor fowl. We're neither Mexican or American to some people, and we ain't white or black.
James Brown, please, please, please. With the
Oh,
show.
I wanted to bring that up too, Robert.
Yeah.
I recall when you were doing your James Brown channeling,
Yes.
we did Please, Please, Please. And
Yes.
didn't you do the thing with the coat and the cape?
Yeah.
Admit it. Admit it.
Superman look, you know.
Yeah. So who put the coat on him? Do you remember?
I think it may have been Magana or somebody.
Richard Magana, yeah.
So for those who don't know, James Brown would do that. He'd sing "Please, Please, Please," and
Yeah.
he'd cry and he'd fall down on his knees and he'd get up.
Yeah.
I can't go on no more. And then some guy would come out and put a cape on him, and he'd stand up with a cape and he'd
And throw the cape off.
huh?
Then throw the cape off
And then he'd throw the cape off and then they put it back on. So Robert did that for us. That was very nice of you, Robert.
Yeah. Can't do it now, Mark.
No, you can't do that anymore.
Can't do it now.
If you get on your knees, you won't be able to get up too fast.
Yeah, I need a blanket if I get up with it.
And then we started doing some James Brown, man. We did Papa's Got a Brand New Bag.
Yeah, out of sight, we did pretty good.
Yeah. I Feel Good.
Mm-hmm. Also, Mark, there was a song that Ronnie and the Pomona Cowgirls did back then called Out of the Blue.
I vaguely remember that.
And we would do that also. I forgot kind of how it went, but I know we did that because we liked the way they did it. So we said, yeah, we could do that.
Well, there was one that they did. It was called something like 2520 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like da 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 da. We copied them on that one too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ronnie and the Pomona Cowgirls.
They were great, man. They had a great
Charles Lett was the lead singer.
Charles Lett, an African American guy. He was 16 years old and sounded like a 30-year-old.
Exactly.
Oh man, I Want to Do the Jerk.
Oh yeah.
Classic.
Oh man.
And in our band, Ernie sang it.
It was Ernie took that. Ernie and still can do it.
He still can do it, and very respectably
Mhm.
and respectfully.
Yeah.
So Ernie started to come out of his shell, so to speak.
Oh.
No pun intended.
The shell.
Yeah.
Should we tell the egg story, Ernie?
What's that?
Should we tell the egg story?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. Oh, this sounds mean, but it wasn't mean. So when Ernie and I were kids, before we were even playing in the band, we used to play basketball. We'd hang out, and at the time, he had an egghead. He turned that way, and it was, he doesn't have it anymore. In fact, I have more of an egghead than he does now. But he kind of had an egghead, so lovingly, I would call him egghead. And but what's so cool about it was it would evolve over the years. Egghead suddenly became just the egg, and then it was the Eggman, and we were calling him Eggman, and then the Beatles came out with a Magical Mystery Tour. And did I Am the Walrus, You Are the Eggman, I Am the Walrus, Cuckoo Choo. So now Ernie's name was really hip. He was the Eggman, man. And so, so that name stuck. So even after we broke up and you played with other bands, they would call you the Eggman. And,
Right.
it
And
kind
the
of
thing
stuck.
about the egghead too is that my initials are EH.
Oh my God.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a
So
natural.
yeah, so any way you look at it, the egg stuck.
Yeah, it stuck.
Yeah.
And
From
I mean,
egghead to the egg.
yes. And then I started calling you Agnes, like Your Highness, Agnes. And to this day, right, I'll call you up and say,
Yes.
Agnes, what's going on? And it's become a thing that's stuck, and it's a loving thing, So it was never done with any animosity or anything. But
Yeah, well,
and you've embraced it. I mean, your email address is egg,
yes.
and you'll
Yes.
sign a lot of your things the egg, and it's stuck.
Well, you'd call me up. We talk regularly, and then we'd call each other, and then you'd say, "How do you feel today? Sunny side up?"
Right. Or I'd say, hey, Omelet, what are you doing today? Are you feeling poached? Or are you got sunny side up? It's endless, but it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, where were we? Oh, so here's a song list from one of the later eras. It's a very cool list. And by the way, on this list, Mark and the Escorts is written in sort of Cholo script, like it would be on a wall with Gonzalez. So it was like Mark and the Escorts with that kind of writing. And here's the list: The Last Time by the Rolling Stones, Heart of Stone by the Rolling Stones, Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, I Who Have Nothing, Help Yourself, I Want to Do the Jerk by Ronnie and the Casuals, Out of Sight, James Brown, Out of the Blue. Here it is, Robert.
Out of the Blue.
Remember that song. Try Me by James Brown. You probably sang that. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, James Brown.
Robert.
Little Red Rooster, Rolling Stones. Gloria by Them. Bring It On Home to Me, Sam Cooke. Land of a Thousand Dances, Cannibal Inners. That's a pretty cool list. Now that brings to mind the gig at the Boulevard Theater. So when we played at the Boulevard Theater, we played in front of the screen. And we played there twice. I didn't realize that, because my memory is when we were on the bill with Little Ray and the Progressions.
Right.
And they borrowed Ernie's drums. So we have a picture, thanks to Ernie's dad, of Little Ray and the Progressions kicking ass. And on the drum head, it says Mark and the Escorts. So that was pretty cool. So here it is. Here's another show at the Boulevard Theater. The Record Inn presents, that was a record store down on Whittier Boulevard. Little Ray, the Midnighters, Ronnie and the Casuals, doing the Freddie. They had a record out of the Freddie. Remember that English group, the Freddie? The Sisters, the Counts, Pat and Lynn, Mark and the Escorts, the Vandells, and Little Egypt and her Shindig Dancers, and the VIPs, who later became El Chicano. Okay, so anyway, I remember the reason I brought it up now is because I remember distinctly playing The Last Time by the Rolling Stones. Down, 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 down. Told you once and I told you twice. So I remember, and it was great. And one of those gigs at the Boulevard Theater is when, Robert, you borrowed those ties from your dad.
Yes, I still have some of those left, believe it or not.
So So, you know, your dad was probably what, I mean, we're talking the 60s. He was already kind of old. So those
yeah.
ties are those
Yes.
ties are from what, the 30s or the 40s?
Like the 30s, yes, they're 30, early 40s.
So there were these big, giant, super
Silk ties.
colorful, super colorful ties. And you brought a bunch of them,
Yes,
and we all put one on.
yes.
And we played there, and it went over really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Did we do it more than once or just that one show?
I know it was once, maybe twice at the most, but I know it one time for sure.
Yeah.
That was pretty hip, and it was
Yeah, that was different, huh?
so let me
Coming
think.
back to that, those white ties, it became a fad. Remember, they had that dance show, 9th Street West,
That's
Yeah.
right.
and some of the dancers, the male dancers, they copied our white ties.
You're right, Ernie. You're
Yeah.
right.
I think that really happened. I could only assume, I mean, because nobody else was doing it.
No,
No,
But like a few weeks after we were wearing them on television on 9th Street West, a lot of people were dancing with those big ties.
yeah.
We were trendsetters, man.
Yeah, man, I still have some left. If you want to buy one, I'll sell it to you.
How much? Five pesos?
Good deal, man. Good, $5.
Okay. Okay. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to kind of go more in order. I got all these flyers and I put them in order just so it kind of makes sense. But here's a gig at St. Alphonsus School Hall, back to school dance featuring the Jaguars with the Salas Brothers, the Sisters, Mark and the Escorts, and the Rhythm Playboys with Our Little Richard. And Our Little Richard was Cannibal. He was in the Rhythm Playboys before Cannibal the Headhunters existed. So I think that was one of the first gigs that Billy Cardenas got us.
But that was Little Richard. That wasn't Frankie, was it? That wasn't
It
Cannibal.
was. It was.
I thought that was Frankie.
What?
I thought
No,
Cannibal
but he
in-
was going by Our Little Richard.
Oh, okay. Wow, staging.
Yeah, probably because of Little Richard keep a knocking
Gotcha. Okay.
Montel
Okay.
Sally. Yeah, it was Our Little Richard, but it was Cannibal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a big deal when we got our gig at St. Alphonsus. That was huge,
Yeah.
you know, because that was one of the best venues. And I remember going there before when we were a little younger and seeing the Midnighters there and Little Ray. I even saw Billy Preston there. Yeah. Now we get to the Alexandria Hotel. Now the Alexandria Hotel was in downtown LA, and most of the dances there were Spanish language salsa dances and, you know, cha-chas, and, you know, it was a Spanish language venue, but they started having some rock and roll in 64. And this is one, and I don't remember who got this gig, but getting back to who booked the gigs. So after Billy started getting us some gigs, and the more we got around, people started calling me Sam Nevada for the Little Union, Paul Carlin for the Big Union in Montebello Ballroom. So I'd get a lot of calls and book a lot of the gigs. And which brings up the band cards. We got to quickly do that.
Mhm.
So our first band card said the Escorts, Mark, Ernie, Robert. It was just 3-piece. And it had, I think, Ernie's father's number. He was kind of being like a manager. It had your number, Ernie. And I think it had my number on it. So that was our first one. And then Trini was taking a print class in high school, I believe. And then you made us some band cards. And it was green. What were you going to say, Trini?
We had a meeting about, because there was a local group called the Escorts. So we were thinking of changing the name, and we were kicking that around. Then I suggested, how about Mark and the Escorts? We took a vote on it. Then I printed the cards. I didn't print the card to show up and say da 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 da. We
Oh,
voted on it first.
I guess we'll go with that, Ernie. I'll go with that.
But I suggested it. We voted on it.
Okay.
I was the rookie in the band.
Right. But I'm glad that it's brought up, because some people think it was Billy Cardenas's idea, but it could have been your idea.
That was mine.
Yeah. Okay. But but I wanted people to know that, you know, it wasn't my idea. Let's call us Mark and the Escorts. No, we were the Escorts at first,
No, it
and
wasn't.
then we
No.
became Mark and the Escorts probably because of that. But also it was cool at the time because there was Ronnie and the Casuals, Art and the Nightlighters, Bobby and the Esquires, Shaggy and the Superiors. That's what it is, you know. Even Neil Young, he was Neil and the Squires back in Toronto, but it was hip to be somebody in the somethings. So that's, that kind of was cool at the time. So, so getting back to the Alexandria, so here we are. We're really quite a lineup. The Blue Satins, who are very popular, a great band, and they're back together again in recent years. They're still great. And then the Jaguars with the Solace Brothers and Mark and the Escorts, October 25th, 1964. So any memories of the Alexandria?
It's a nice building, beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah.
You know,
Upstairs, we're like the fourth
yes,
floor or
yes,
something.
Yes, very nice. All the wood, beautiful building.
There was 2 halls. In the bigger hall, it was like a Cuban band, with the ruffled shirts and all that.
Okay.
Then we played for the kids because that way the people could bring the kids. So we played for the kids it was a big hall, but not like there was another bigger hall. Yeah, I remember going and seeing the Cuban bands over there, and they were fantastic.
We
I think
didn't
your
get.
dad got us those gigs.
No, he didn't. No, he did not. No, he did not. It was either probably Billy Cardenas, because Billy was booking the Jaguars there and all. Yeah, my dad had nothing to do with that. In fact, I got a story about that too. But no, he had nothing to do with that. It was probably Billy. But one memory I have of one of the gigs there was Ernie couldn't make the gig, and so I had to get a sub drummer, and I got this high school friend of mine, Barry Beniski, and he played drums with us that night. And there's a photograph of us posing, and Barry's holding the drumsticks, and I think it was a weird thing where we were either Richard played guitar on a song, maybe Where Lovers Go. I think he played on one song, he played guitar. So it was really weird. I was like, either you were holding my guitar and we were holding the wrong guitar.
Everything was switched around.
Yeah, it was very strange.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a funny picture, and I'll probably show it on the screen here. But another thing was, again, let's get back to the clothes. We were very kind of creative with that. We had some cool outfits. And one of our ideas, besides the big tie thing, was at this time of the Alexandria. I have a picture of us on stage there. We went through this phase where we thought, hey, let's all wear our band coats, but with different color shirts underneath. Mm-hmm. So like, one guy would wear a yellow shirt, a pink shirt. And so we had a different look, and so I have a picture of that where we're all wearing different color shirts, and it was pretty kind of a sharp look. But getting back to our uniforms, our first uniform, I'm trying to think. The first one was probably those really cool collarless coats. They had first come out, those collarless coats. No, they were more like, they came down like this. It was a turtleneck with these gold coats that came down like that, but they were like really cool color of gold, like not a brassy, a really cool color. And that's that famous Mark and the Escorts photo that's on the albums and stuff. And it was when Ricky was in the band. It was just the 5-piece. So that was kind of ironic because it was the 7-piece band that made those records, but it's that professional photo of the 5-piece band that wound up on the album covers and all that, and in the books. So Ricky's in all those photos. So it was just Ernie, Richard, me, you, and Trini, 5 of us in those pictures. But they were really cool. We took them at Richie Villosa's studio on Whittier Boulevard, professional photographer. And we have 4 different poses. And one of them, Ricky's holding a trumpet and I'm holding a sax. And
Ernie has the tambourine.
Ernie's playing the tambourine with his butt sticking out.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, we never used that photo, but we used the other one where I'm sitting on the amp real cool and you guys are around. And, yeah. So that's a cool photo. So those were cool coats.
Yeah. The embarrassing thing about the turtlenecks is that when me and my parents, me and my mom went to go find one, we couldn't find one my size. because I was so small. So my mom had a turtleneck, and she says, "Well, just wear mine." But then where her boobs were, there was little points on the, but the jacket would cover that. So I was okay, but I mean, still in the back of my head was like,
Keep that jacket
yeah,
on.
I
Keep
can't
that
take
jacket on.
I can't take this jacket off, otherwise I'm gonna get murdered by the guy.
You would have never lived it down.
Yeah.
So then we had those cool seersucker coats. Remember that? They were like, they had the stripes and
Yes, yes.
yeah. And there's some photos of us playing at the Tower Queen dance at Griffith Junior High School. And we're all wearing those coats, and it's Trini and Richard Magana. And in those pictures, Richard Morin is in there too, wearing one of those. And yeah, so those were cool coats. And then I think we had some black ones. We went through various kinds of things, but
We had a black jacket that was kind of short.
yeah,
It was like I don't know what you would call it.
and it had this little stuff here, like feathery. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, kind of like a little Latin type jacket, and then it had the fake whatever you want to call
The collar.
the
Well, the
suede,
collar,
like
you
suede.
can take it
Yeah,
on and
yeah,
off.
that's what I'm
You can
saying.
take it on and off.
Very strange.
Remember the white pants?
The white
We had
pants?
the white pants for a while. And we used to get it on our knees and then fall back. And so they were gone. We dirtied them all up.
Yeah, we'd all get down on our knees and play and lean
Yeah.
back and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
We did that at your dad's club.
And we
When I
did
came-
it. We did it at the Shrine Auditorium too, which we're going to bring up later. So now we're still on the Alexandria. So so we played there a few times, but here's one that this one kind of pissed me off. So for some reason, we got hired for one of the Spanish language dances, and we didn't have any cha-chas or anything like that, but they had us on the bill, and I have it here, and it says Alexandria Hotel presents Saturday, December 5th, 64, Mariano Marceron and his famous orchestra featuring Hector Nunez, plus Mark and the Escort. Not Mark and the Escorts, Mark and the Escort. One, it's probably me and one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is what got me. Because it was a Spanish language thing and my dad was well known, it said, Mark Guerrero is the son of the well-known singer and orchestra leader, Lalo Guerrero. And I was very unhappy with that because even though I was proud of my dad, I never used to talk about it. I never wanted it used for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want to use the name for some advantage. I just wanted to do my own thing. Number two, I didn't want to be thought of as a celebrity's son or something. I just wanted to be one of the guys, So for those reasons, I just didn't want to use it. So when they did that, I was mortified about it. But we played and we survived. I don't know how we did. We probably just did our thing and nobody threw anything. Yeah. So here's I don't even remember the gig. Do you guys remember that gig? I don't remember it. Okay, so here's another one, CYO Hall. And the bill is Ronnie and the Casuals, the Four Queens, an all-girl band that Billy managed. They played their instruments, drums, guitars, bass, and Mark and the Escorts. You guys remember the Four Queens?
No.
None of you remember, huh? They were only on the bill 2 or 3 times with us. Okay, now here's another one. This one was at the Big Union Hall. Might have been the first time we played there. And on the bill were Lil Ray, Ronnie and the Casuals, and a fast rising group, Mark and the Escorts, and the new and exciting Blue Notes, February 20th, 1965. Probably none of you remember that specific gig, right?
No.
I like the Big Union.
Yeah, it was great.
Loved it.
That big long stage. And Ronnie and the Casuals, yeah. So we played on the bill with them several times, and they were one of Billy's groups. And as we said, they had that great lead singer, They had a sax player. Ronnie's brother was a sax player, and they were just a kick-ass, powerful group.
Right.
And we got along great with them and everything. But I remember one thing, and I don't know if you guys remember this one. Talk about remembering embarrassing things. And it wasn't embarrassing, but we were feeling good about ourselves. We were playing lots of gigs. We were popular. And Billy said, "Hey, you guys go to Pomona to this church, and we're going to have a rehearsal." And Ronnie and the Casuals were there too to rehearse. And so we went on and we did our thing, and then they came on, and I want to do the jerk. Holy fuck, man. It was like, wow. It was kind of powerful. It made me feel like, I think I'll just walk and stand over here for a while, But no, they were pretty powerful. You guys agree? I mean, they sounded great, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were running the Pomona Casuals.
Yeah. First they were running the Casuals, then they became running the Pomona Casuals. And they put out an album on Bob Keene's label, one of his labels. And it was great. They had an album out, man. The Romancers had a couple of albums out on one of Keene's labels, and so did Ronnie and the Casuals. They were great. We liked them a lot. Then comes the famous West Coast East Side Review at the Shrine Auditorium.
Oh yeah.
And most of Billy's bands played there, but Little Ray was there, the Slauson Brothers, pretty much all the other bands were, and the Blue Satins. All the rest of the bands were Billy's bands. So that was a big deal. It was at the Shrine Auditorium, and all those bands were there. And Dave Hull was the host from KRLA Radio, the Hullabalooer. Now, what memories, Robert, do you have any memories of that gig in particular?
Oh man, just at the shrine, just pulling up there to the shrine and bringing the equipment in from the back there, the entrance to the stage. Then when the curtain opened up, the crowd was just unreal.
How about you, Ernie?
With the shrine,
As far as our performance was concerned, I just thought we did really good. And when we did Get Your Baby, Trini wore that mask. He put a mask on. Remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that mask of an old guy,
yeah.
Steve Allen used to wear that kind of a mask.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Yeah, wow.
Yes, and what did you say, Wooly Bully?
Bully old chap.
Wooly Bully old chap.
We got to talk about that too.
And he had that old mask on. It was wild, and the crowd was just going wild. They loved it.
Yeah, I remember being on stage, and I remember doing that thing, and whatever song we were doing, we got on our knees and we leaned back.
Mm-hmm.
We were going for it. Yeah, and I remember the Midnighters were the big deal that night, and when they left the stage door afterwards, girls were out there screaming like for the Beatles and all that. So, Trini, you have any memories besides the mask?
A couple. Who was the rhythm guitar player with the Midnighters?
Roy Marcus. They called him Ringo.
Well, limo pulled up, and him and Larry Rendon get out. These girls start coming at them. Larry ran in. He lagged, and the girls jumped him, and they were tearing him apart. They were grabbing and just pulling and screaming, and nobody was coming at me. Hey, I'm in the show. But I went and I saved his butt, but I peeled the chicks off of him and yanked him into the shrine.
But Robert and Ernie probably remember that happened to me at Griffith one time, remember?
Yes.
We played at the assembly for Griffith Junior High, and we were invited to were you there, Trini? I don't know if you were
I
there.
did a couple of those.
Well, anyway, so the faculty invited us to the cafeteria to eat after our performance. And the girls, for some reason, started chasing me. And I ran around the building a couple of times, and it was a hard day's night moment until they caught me. And then the terror came in, pulling hair, scratching, tearing my shirt. Yeah. So I found out right away that that's not fun. But yeah, it happened one time.
Another thing about the shrine, when I got out there and I went on stage and looked out there, I said, hell no, I'm not doing this. And I tried to sneak out, but you guys caught me.
You trying to run out?
I was
Yeah.
trying to run out.
We got you.
And I don't know why, but I was really intimidated when I saw that big old place. And
Yeah.
I tried to sneak out. I had my horn. I only had one horn back then.
Yeah.
And I got caught.
Good thing we caught you. Getting back to the record, I want to mention that on Get Your Baby, it was Billy Cardenas's idea for somebody to say, I do say, Willy Bully, old chap, during the record.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to do it, and I don't know anybody. So Trini was selected, and I don't remember if you happily agreed or you reluctantly agreed. But you agreed to do it, and you did it with gusto, con gusto. I do say, Willy Bully, old chap, and you went, "Whoa." And that became a signature thing on the record. Billy was right, because people would always say, Willy Bully, old chap, and his idea was, he thought, well, the British invasion is happening, so to be an Englishman, I do say, Willy Bully, old chap. So that was a nod to the British invasion, and the Willy Bully was in reference to the song Willy Bully, which was #1 that year. And, every band played that in East L.A. So he just said, I do say Willy Bully, old chap, instead of Bully Bully, Willy Bully, old chap. So that's where that came, and it worked, And then he had us all, like he did with all his bands. After we recorded the record, he said, okay, all of you get around the mic and just start screaming stuff, So we made a track of yelling. And that was hilarious because, we were just yelling out stuff, And the ones that stick out in my mind, one of them that you said, Trini, that was it on that one? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So right before my guitar solo, you yell out, "Whale, mama." And I go, why is it mama? I'm not a woman, and so to this day I hear that, I go, why couldn't he have said whale daddy? You know what I mean? Or whale. But for some reason you said it. But we were just yelling whatever came into our mind. And I remember Robert, at one point you said twine.
Yeah, the twine, yeah.
Because the twine was happening at the time. And so you go, so as
Popular
the record's fading out, you hear you saying twine. That was pretty cool. But all of us were yelling stuff. And that takes me 52 years later, when it was in the movie. I go to see the movie, and it was one of those things with all those incredible big speakers around, surround sound. And I'm hearing our record that we had done when we were kids in this movie a half a century later. And I can hear all our voices. I heard twine, and I hear it all like, oh, that's Robert. Oh, that's Magana. And I could hear us yelling in the background. So it was a very surreal experience to hear that many years later in such a grand way. And I go, man, when we recorded it, we had no idea that we were recording it mainly because it was going to be in this movie 50 years later.
No idea.
But that was a fun session, and Billy came up with all those ideas.
We had to go re-record it because they didn't like. We had to re-record the song or parts of it because they didn't want that on the record.
Well, it was on the record.
Well, I must have said something else, but we had to re-record the song because of what I yelled instead of that.
But they kept it.
Oh, I don't remember.
I yelled something that we had to go back and re-record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think we did that song more than 2 takes. I mean, I don't think, did it take a long
Yeah,
time?
I don't think it was we had to re-record just all of the yelling and stuff that we did, because we did say a few things that they thought was risque.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said, hey, you guys, it was great, but you can't say this and you can't say that.
Clean it up. All right, here's another flyer. And this is for a gig at Belvedere Park Auditorium. On the bill, Little Ray, the Sisters, Ronnie and the Pomona Casuals, Mark and the Escorts. I remember that gig very well. And you guys remember it, Belvedere Park?
I recall playing there, but that's about it.
That was a good one. Here's another one at the Alexandria, and it's another one they put us in on a Spanish language show. I don't remember doing 2 of these, but here it is. It says, Chihuahuense, Carlos Ramirez, and his vocalist Pepin Aporno, Mark and the Escorts, Rhythm and Blues, March 13th, 1965, Alexandria Hotel, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Oh
We
man.
were like 15 years old, playing till 2 a.m. and driving home and going to Denny's to eat.
And Taco Fiesta.
Taco Fiesta, baby.
Taco Fiesta, man. That was a spot.
What was the one in Atlantic?
Taco Fiesta.
No, that restaurant in Atlantic we used to go to
We
afterwards.
go Largo's or Shakey's or Taco
It
Fiesta.
wasn't Googie's, was it?
Googies.
Remember Googie's? Yeah. The Taco Fiesta was right near East L.A. College, right there.
Right across the street.
I once saw Muhammad Ali there.
What about the time I went to interrupt when we saw Trini Lopez at Lupus?
Yeah, I saw him there more than once. Yeah, it was.
It was-
No, it wasn't Lupus. Back then, it was Bees El Burrito. Now
We
it's
saw him at Lupus. Yeah, now it's
no.
Lupus.
Now it's Lupus. Then it was Bees El Burrito. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I used to go there all the time and buy taquitos. Yeah, and I ran into Trini there at least twice. So
Wow.
once you were with us when we saw
Yes.
him,
Mhm.
I found out that later that it was he would go there. He was going to East LA to visit a girlfriend. So that's
Uh-huh.
why he was there a lot. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Mhm.
So here's another really cool one. When we played behind Johnson's Market on the flatbed truck,
Mhm.
and on the bill were the Midnighters, the Night Themes, Ronnie and the Casuals, the Queens, the Sisters, Little Ray, Amber Tones, Little Egypt, Mark and the Escorts, the Blue Angels, the Counts, and the Vandells. Now, I would think you guys remember that gig because it was so unique. Do you remember it? Any good?
Parking lot, yes, yes, oh yeah. In the back of the truck.
Yeah.
It was nice. It was a nice gig. Very,
Any
very
good?
nice.
What date was it?
It doesn't have the date, but it was 1965. And I've talked to Willie G, and he said, you know, they got mobbed that time. They got chased down the street. They got attacked, you know. Here's another one at the Big Union, the Sisters, the Midnighters, Mark and the Escorts, and Ronnie and the Casuals. That's pretty cool. Oh, and that's the one where they did this extra kind of a mailer. That was the flyer, but they created this mailer, this long, narrow thing, and it had the Midnighters, the Sisters, Mark and the Escorts, and Ronnie and the Casuals with pictures of each of us. And under us, it said, a fast rising group again. Yeah. Here's another St. Alphonsus with the Midnighters, Willie G, the Four Queens, Ricky Shade, the Slauson Brothers, Mark and the Escorts, and the Impalas Band, and the Sisters. And that was the first time I saw the Impalas, you know, with Ronnie Reyes and
Mhm.
all those guys. Yeah. And I don't even know if you guys remember this, but this was a really cool one at the Montebello Ballroom. And the bill was the Premiers with Farmer John, the Blendells, La 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 La, and Mark and the Escorts with their big new hit, Get Your Baby, a terrific record. That was cool, but I have very little memory of that show. I don't know if you guys do.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. This is Montebello Ballroom. The Cascades, the Eternals, the Originals, the Blue Satins, Mark and the Escorts, Danny and the Starlighters. I don't remember most of those groups.
I don't recall that.
Did we ever play on the bottom stage? Because I just remember playing up on the top stage.
Oh yeah, we played the bottom stage. I think the first couple of times we played there, and then because at first I don't think they were using that top stage. Then they started using it, so they could always have one band ready to play. When one finished, the other one would start, and then the other band was set up there, and so it was continuous music.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, here's another Montebello Ballroom. Premiers, Blue Satins, Mark and the Escorts, and the VIPs. And here's one, Montebello Ballroom, where we're on the bill with Roy Head. Remember Treat Her Right?
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
I remember him.
Little Ray, the Progressions, Mark and the Escorts, and the Royal Gems. I remember seeing him perform. Do you guys remember seeing him?
Mhm. Yes.
He had a big hit at the time. That was kind of a big deal.
They're called Treat Her Right.
Yeah, And I remember seeing the Turtles there. One night.
Yeah,
We weren't on the bill, I don't think,
Oh,
but I remember seeing them. Here's another Montebello Ballroom with Mark and the Escorts, the Exotics, and the Royal Gems. Now, the Exotics were a big rival band to us because, you know, they were really good and they went to Garfield and we were on the bill with them a lot. In fact, we did a couple of Battle of the Bands with them at the Cleveland House. Remember when we used to play the Cleveland House, Robert?
Yes, I do.
We did
Yeah.
we did 3 Battle of the Bands there.
Mhm.
Yeah, but there the Exotics were very good.
that's why I first heard you guys.
At the Cleveland House?
Yeah, and I said, oh hell no, I can't. No, you guys are fantastic.
Yeah, that was a good spot. And for Ernie and I, it took off from there, you know.
Yeah, that's where it all started, really. Here's another Montebello Ballroom. Ronnie and the Casuals, Blue Satins, Mark and the Escorts, and the Originals. I don't remember the Originals. Anybody remember the Originals?
No, I don't.
Okay, here's one, Montebello Armory. The Ambertones, Little Ray and the Progressions, the Fabulous Jades, and Mark and the Escorts. You guys remember the Jades?
No,
I think they were from San Pedro, and they were like Samoan type guys, you know, Islander kind of guys. And they were good. They were really good, the Jades.
please, okay.
Here's another Montebello Ballroom. Blue Satins, Amber Tones, Mark and the Escorts, Royal Gems. Another Montebello Ballroom. Little Ray, Mark and the Escorts, Originals, Progressions, and Jades. And here's a biggie. This is Big Union Hall. And they had all these mainstream R&B artists. Don Julian, Bobby Day, Rockin' Robin,
Right.
Don and Dewey, the original version of Farmer John they did. Sunny Night, Confidential, Dedicated to You. The Larks, Leon Peels and the Blue Jays, Johnny Flamingo, plus 3 great bands, the Ambertones, the Impalas, and Mark and the Escorts. And they misspelled Impalas as Ampalas. There's a lot of bad spelling on some of these flyers. And here's one at the All Nations Hall. Little Ray and the Progressions, Mark and the Escorts, the Emeralds, and the Dreamers.
That was the one on Brook and Soto?
Yeah,
Yeah, all nations.
yeah. Another Montebello Ballroom, Mark and the Escorts, Little Ray, Progressions, and VIPs. Oftentimes it was same bands. Another one, Little Ray, Progressions, Mark and the Escorts, Exotics, and Exciters. And yeah. So I think there's a couple more, but I think I didn't print them out. But our last gig as Mark and the Escorts was early 1966. But yeah, so we went from 3-piece to 4-piece to 5 to 6 to 7, and you know, had a lot of fun. And I think Ernie, you told me that I don't know if it was Robert or Trini told you recently that about all our adventures after the gigs that you couldn't enjoy because your dad would take you home.
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So since my dad was our roadie, and I would just go home with my dad to unload the stuff into our garage.
Mhm.
And you guys were the guys that got to go out and, you know, do whatever you did. And some of the stories that Robert and Trini had told me were, you know, they were funny.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah.
were, all the hijinks you guys did.
Yeah.
It was fun back then.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool, like, you know, being 14, 15, 16, getting home at 2 in the morning and all this stuff was pretty cool. So anything else? Did I miss something? Oh, let me look at my main master thing here that I made up.
Well, I have one memory that
Huh?
that was exciting to me was when we backed the sisters,
Yeah.
we rehearsed with them at Richard's parents' garage.
Mhm.
Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we weren't in the den, we were in the garage.
I wonder if we got kicked out of the den.
I don't know why we didn't. I don't know why we didn't play in the den. But
Because I remember when we were the Men from Sound a little bit later, and we had George Ochoa and Tony Rodas, we would rehearse in the garage sometimes then too.
oh, okay.
So we must have been thrown out of the basement. But anyway, so go ahead. So we rehearsed with
But it was just, yeah, it was just, you know, since they were girls and we were all guys, you know, I was all excited that, you know, we were backing up the girls.
Oh, yeah.
And they were, you know, they were good looking girls. And it was kind of like, wow, we're backing up the sisters. You
And I
know?
remember we backed them up at the Great Western Exhibit Center. I don't have a flyer for that, but it was that big room. Yeah. So Trini, you wanted to say something about the Alexandria Hotel?
So you guys were always mischievous and horsing around and pushing each other around and this and that. You guys got in the elevator, shut the elevator off, turned the light off, and jumped each other.
It wasn't me that turned the elevator. I wonder who it was, like Magana?
Well, it was
Richard
it was
Wilson's
half the
thing.
band. And so security's there because they thought the elevator was jammed. And then when the elevator comes down, the guys come out and they're all hair's all in a mess and their clothes and they threw us out because
Were you involved in the elevator caper? Ernie was involved?
remembers it, but
I don't
There was-
recall that one, Mark.
I don't either.
I'm sure you two were in on it because you
I
guys
don't
were
know, but I plead not
and you
guilty.
too, you were always
I don't remember being there at all. Ernie, were you involved?
I can't remember.
Okay, well,
but it was because I was there when the door opened and then you guys there was at least 3 of you in there, maybe 4. And
and you weren't in there. You
What's
weren't in there?
no.
Innocent, huh?
I was
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, I don't remember that, but it's possible. You know, we were
you
15, you
got a lot
know,
of energy and these guys used to
Yeah.
get bored and just
energy, hormones, everything raging, you
The
know.
growing pains, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so now, so by, like I said, early 66, Mark and the Escorts were no more. Some of us had evolved into the Men from Sound. And, but decades later, 2009, we did our first reunion show. And so it was Trini, Robert, Ernie, me. Rick Rosas came back and played with us.
Leo Valenzuela.
Leo played bass with us on the first one too. We had 2 bass players. What happened was Richard was off with Neil Young or something, and so Leo did the rehearsals with us. So then Richard was going to do the gig. So we felt bad that Leon did the rehearsals. We said, hey, why don't you come and you play too? So we had 2 bass players. And then John Valenzuela, Leo's brother, who later were with you and me in Tango, Ernie. He was in
Right.
the group Tango. He played organ. So yeah, but that was a cool gig. We played at the Van Nuys Elks Lodge.
We were part of the garage bands. The old garage bands. They had us and they had the Ambertones.
Right. So anyway, I have the flyer here. And so it was just Mark and the Escorts and the Ambertones were the only 2 old groups and the only 2 Chicano groups, basically. And everybody else were younger groups, kind of punky. And the audience was all in their 20s, white, maybe into the early 30s, but young audience, kind of punky. But here are some of the names of the bands on the bill with the Ambertones and Mark and the Escorts. The Phantom Surfers, the Troublemakers, my favorite, the Tough Titties, the Agogo Carts, the Guilty Hearts, the Crucials. So it was a punky kind of event. And what was cool was we went over great. They really dug us. And I remember one of our girlfriends was in the restroom and she heard a couple of young girls say, I want to hear those old bands. Yeah.
The old
That's
guys.
us. That's us.
Plus the record company that was putting out our records again was there, and they sold the.
Oh yeah, they were selling our Mark and the Escorts the album that we had 4 songs on. All our 4 songs were on it. Dionysus Records put out an album
Right.
called East Side Sound Volume 2 featuring Mark and the Escorts. And so we were selling the albums and CDs there, and we were signing autographs and all these young people, and it was cool. And the Ambertones sounded good. We sounded good. And the other younger Delgado brothers were there, you know, Joey and Steve and Bobby, you know, guys that were in, Bobby was in the Exotics, but their brother, Eddie, was the bass player for the Ambertones. So they were all there, and it was a cool night. And Joe Wissert, Ernie, our old producer of Tango, showed up.
Tango.
It's a great night, yeah. Then we did a show at the Tiki Oasis in San Diego. Remember that one?
That was a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
That was cool. There's video of that up on YouTube. Check it out. And at the Crown Plaza Hotel, the lineup was Big Sandy with Los Straight Jackets,
They were great.
King Kukulele, Marty Lush and his Latin livers, not lovers, livers, and Orchestra Superstring. The theme was South of the Border. But yeah, we played really well, and Richard played with us. So
Yeah.
That was a fun gig. It had a statue of a donkey in the lobby there. We were taking photos by the donkey. Yeah.
oh man.
Mhm.
And then we played at the Viva Cantina in Burbank. And yeah, and again, it was mainly sort of younger groups. I think we were the only kind of older group and the only East LA group. But you had groups like the Ogres and the Bloody Brains and Los Macho Borrachos, the Slobsters, the Chuckleberries, Satan's Cheerleaders. So we were on that bill, and
Yeah.
we kicked ass. We were good. And Richard Magana showed up at that one, and he
Right.
sang on Dance With Me with us. And then we played the Paramount Ballroom. It was a benefit for the wife of the leader of the Premiers passed away, and the original Premiers bass player passed away. So this was a benefit to help those families with expenses and all that. And everybody showed up. I mean, you know, it was, let me see here. Yeah, the Premiers, Mark and the Escorts, Chan Romero, and East Side Review, Andy Tesso, members of the Jaguars, the Solace Brothers, the Heartbreakers, Mickey Lesbrun of El Chicano, Mike Rincon of the Blendells, the Storytellers, Easy Company, and the In Crowd. Donation $10 went to the families of those people. So that was fun. Remember that? And I remember it was a rainy day, right? I remember loading in, it was raining, and the parking was horrible.
Plus, that was where I first met Greg Esparza.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was just floored by us. I mean, he was just
He really liked us, yeah.
yeah. And Trini provided the PA.
Sure did. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good gig. And
Not for Trini.
and it was great because and Richard Rosas showed up for that one too.
Right.
And what was great about it was the reunion aspect of it. All those musicians were there, you know, former Midnighters, and you know, a lot of people hadn't seen each other for 20, 30 years. It was great.
And didn't we go out to dinner after that gig, Mark? We went to go get a bite to eat, didn't we?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
great. We hung out.
Yeah, you left me there with the PA. You guys are supposed to help me bring the PA down.
Oh.
Down there
So-
with myself. It's raining.
Oops.
Oh, man.
So changing the subject quickly,
Yeah. But it was a good gig.
but it was a good gig.
What was another gig we did in Hollywood?
No, yeah, that's the last one, the latest one we did.
The Silver Lake area there.
Well, I was gonna say one more thing about the Paramount. It was there that somebody told me about where Richard Magana was, because we had all lost touch with him.
Right.
And so I got his number, I called him up. And I must say this too, before we say about the last gig, was that so I went to visit Richard Magana. I hadn't seen him in 50 years, whatever. So I drove from Palm Springs to somewhere down, where was he? He was south of the 60 somewhere. And I went to have lunch with him. We were talking, and I called up I forgot. I called up Trini, I think. I said, Trini, guess who I'm with? I'm with Richard Magana, and Trini hadn't seen him in decades either. So we said, hey, why don't we just meet at Marie Callender's up in West Covina? So Trini goes, okay, I'll meet you there, you know. So meanwhile, I called Robert Warren, and Robert, you showed up too, right?
Yes, yes, I did.
Everybody happened to be home. It was totally, you know, just happening on the fly. So Robert heads over to Marie Callender's. And then I called Ernie, and he had a day job at that time, and he was coming home from work, and I told
Right.
him, and he was happening to go through on the way home. It was
Right.
right. So you showed up,
Yes.
and we had this reunion, impromptu, miraculous reunion, and
Right.
it was like none of us had seen Richard in 50 years.
It's
Richard,
been a while, yeah.
yeah. So that was really
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
And we sat there, we ate, and we talked for a couple hours, you know, reminiscing. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, yeah, very nice.
That was fun.
And the last one we've done is at the Echo in Echo Park. And that's a very hip venue. And as a matter of fact, the Rolling Stones played there, like I think a few months before we played there. They wanted some place to play, a small place to showcase something privately, and they played there, man. And it was a very hip venue. A lot of cool young bands were playing there, and so again, the only East LA bands at this show that was mainly young people and punky people were the Midnighters, when Greg Esparza was singing lead with them, and of course Jimmy Espinosa was there, and Mark and the Escorts, and I think that was our best reunion show because we went all out on that one. For the first time, we learned Farmer John again. We learned Land of a Thousand Dances. So we did all those East LA hits, La 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 La, I Want to Do the Jerk, our stuff. So we truly represented East LA, the 60s East LA sound. And we did songs, like always, when we do these shows, we only do songs from that era that we did in that era. And the place was packed, man. There were hundreds of people in there. I mean, could be 1,000.
Oh, wow.
It was huge, packed. And because it was packed and that energy was there, we played really well and we just kicked ass. And unfortunately, that's one of the few places that we didn't videotape. You know,
Right.
we have videotape from most of these reunions, I think all of them, except for this one.
Except for that one.
And I remember, I think I even had my camera with me, but it was so hectic, the parking and getting in there, and that we just didn't do it. We don't even have photographs from that one, but that one was killer. And I remember even Jimmy Espinosa was saying, man, you guys killed, man. He was like, I think he said, like, you kicked our ass, you know, but we were pretty damn good that day, but no video evidence. But you guys remember that show because it was such a huge thing.
Yes.
Any particular memories other than just it was packed?
We call Jimmy Espinosa standing in front of the stage just looking at us, you know, saying, hey, you guys are tough.
Yeah. So it was amazing, you know, that, you know, we played those couple of years together back in the early 60s. And then all these years later, we do these 5 reunion shows. And it was so weird because that's the way it is in life. You know, it's like we hadn't seen each other in a long time. And I think I'd only seen Trini 2 or 3 times throughout the years. And I think, Robert, I didn't see you again till the CYO Hall. There was
Right.
like, my dad and I spoke there. There was an event and you showed up. I think Trini showed up too.
Yeah.
And so we all kind of saw each other for the first time in many years then. And but my point is that when we first got together to rehearse for our first reunion show, it was like no time had passed. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
all the personalities come together, the relationships and the way it was like yesterday. So it wasn't even like, okay, here we are again. And it was
Exactly.
like it was like we fell right back into it, started playing, it kicked in right away, and we went ahead and did those 5 reunion shows. And
That was a Little Ray's Sanctuary at the studio.
what was?
Did we go to Little Ray's for rehearsal that night?
Oh, did we?
I think
Yeah.
we did it there.
Once.
Yeah.
Once we did
Yeah.
we did one rehearsal before the the Van Nuys.
Yeah. And then for some of the other ones, I remember we rehearsed at John Valenzuela's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we did stuff like, aside from the East L.A. songs, we did stuff like CC Rider. You sang the hell out of that by the Animals. I think we would do a Little Latin Loopy Loo. Ernie and I would do Drive My Car by the Beatles.
Yeah.
That was bad. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to resurrect the Vavoom.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Ernie had a powerful voice and still does. And he would sing all the Animal songs back in the day. We got to get out of this place. It's my life. Don't let me be misunderstood. So he was our Eric Burden. And so somebody came up with calling him Vavoom, like that cartoon character. Vavoom! This little guy would shake buildings, you know. So he was Vavoom, and to this day I'll say, Ernie, you got to bring Vavoom out, you know. Don't be shy. Yeah, but I would always refer to Ernie as my secret weapon because, you know, I'd be singing most of the songs, then boom, Ernie would come out and kick ass on something, you know. He used to do When a Man Loves a Woman back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started singing when I was about 15. I started singing a lot, but before that, I didn't even bother.
He didn't speed up. Most drummers would get excited and speed up. Ernie would stay on that tempo. I mean,
Yeah.
the way we started it, that was it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were young, but we were very talented also. You know,
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
So it was a lot of fun being part of that East LA scene, you know, and it was just something that happened spontaneously, and we were part of it, and we were lucky to be part of it, and
Very true.
we all have a lot of great memories, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else anybody else wants to say before we
I just want to say thank you, Mark, for what you have done so far, keeping the records alive and accurate. And you know, to your parents and Ernie's parents, mom and dad, from me, never forget it.
All right, man. What about you, Ernie?
It was just a great experience of the friendship that we had. Everybody in the band, except for Richard, he was the prankster in the band.
Richard Rosas,
it's
yeah.
funny that after when me and Richard played before the tango thing, and I would get a hold of Trini, and then he would tell me, I can't believe that you're such good friends with Richard. You used to be afraid of him.
That's probably true, right? And why was it? Because he was a prankster and you didn't know him that
Yeah.
first.
He was the youngest one, so he pulled more pranks on him.
Oh, yeah.
So, but he pulled pranks.
Oh, he pulled some serious pranks.
Yeah.
I remember something with Mark's shoes and you get that innocent. No, I didn't do anything.
Oh, yeah. He would never cop to anything. He was very
Oh,
slick.
no, you had to catch him when he caught him, he still didn't do it.
Yeah. He had that innocent look. He
Yeah. He really laid it on thick.
But Mark, it was good back then, and it still is, and I'm just glad to have been a part of it and still here to talk about it. You know.
Absolutely, man. And you know, and we might do another reunion. You never know; it could happen again.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
The phone might ring. You know.
What's that?
The telephone may ring. You never know.
You never know when that phone's gonna ring.
We'll have some old ties if we need them.
That's right. You still have them? Okay.
Oh yeah, I got a few left.
Sounds good, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. We did it. It was.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll let you know when it's up. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you.